I'm Stefan Baumann. I would like to invite you on a special journey. A journey of exploration in a magical place. A place of mystery, adventure, intrigue, and where art and history collide. A place where the old masters found their inspiration and enlightenment. And that enlightenment they shared with the world forever. This September, experience the thrill of adventure in my plein air painting workshop in Tuscany. Together we will capture Florence's sublime effects of light and witness forever for yourself the beauty that is Tuscany. Everything you need to know about this extraordinary opportunity to paint in Italy can be found on my website at www.stefanbaumann.com.
Thank you once again for tuning in to another podcast. Have you ever started thinking about doing a painting on location and think, no, stop, I want to do this painting larger in my studio? What would be the benefit of doing that? I suggest that if you're on location and you start a painting, you want to try to finish that painting to your best of ability. Try to create something that is moving and touching and has the essence of light. I usually don't recommend that you take that same painting and do it again because the element of surprise is taken out. I don't mind you working on location and getting a really spontaneous, beautiful painting with beautiful effects of light, and then going home and recreating something that might be a composite but not a recreation. When you recreate something, it's just another one of the same. So here you have a large version of this little version. And you know, the Mona Lisa is a very small painting. Paintings don't have to be big, huge statements. Beautiful little paintings have value too. So look at your plein air paintings not as a beginning for a sketch you do in studio, but as a little masterpiece painted on location. Be sure to listen to the end of my podcast here and get an opportunity to register for a free book. But until then, listen in to one of my conversations that I have with one of my students about creating beautiful work spontaneously outdoors and just calling that your masterpiece. And originally, plein air painting was produced predominantly so that the artists could go back to their studio, because remember, we didn't have photography back then. So so it was a way for artists to capture what was there. If we look at the early paintings of Corot and these, it's for them to go out of the studio, and they would grab a cigar box or something and throw some paints in it, and they would go out and do a little painting. You know, it wasn't like today where everybody produces all these products for plein air paintings. In fact, I'm amazed at the quantity of companies that are producing, boxes. It's like almost an artist, like they figure, well, I'll come up with a new plein air box so that it would subsidize my plein air painting because I'm not selling enough to survive on. There's a lot of boxes on the market for that, but you grab a hold of all of your paints and you go outdoors and you do painting. And then, the Impressionists kind of took that to another level, and they go out and say, well, these are the paintings. Consequently, the finished work that they produced was done on location, and they worked from life, and they thought that that's basically it. And they would bring easels that were that could accommodate larger canvases. Remember, they didn't have photography back then that was available to them. They did have photography, but it was mostly black and white. It was all black and white, especially at the beginning, and it was very expensive, and it was very cumbersome. So For us to go out and capture light and remember what things look like, they relied on doing field sketches and then bring them back to the studio. So now they go out and they start painting on these larger canvases, and then cameras come into play, and they cameras become part of history at that point. And before you know it, people are saying, well, why paint something when a camera does a better job? Why don't we use painting and go abstract? Because photography can't go abstract. So artists kind of went into that direction, mainly because, why bother rendering something when a camera does? So they go off and artists start painting abstract art, and some of them start using this new photography, and they start painting in a studio. And it's really surprising. When I started teaching plein air painting was in 1980, and there was very, very, very few people painted outdoors. Consequently, whatever we invented, that's the new beginning, and people kind of got that plein air painting should be convenient, and things should be smaller and lightweight, and you should be able to put it on your back and go backpacking. And all this stuff is really great, but it's not the traditional impressionist plein air painting. Artists that are really diehard plein air painters still go out with very large canvases and very complex easel situations to stand out there. There are easels out there that can handle a very large canvas. And if you look at the early Hudson River School artists and Bierstadt and Moran, when they painted outdoors and they painted large, they had a completely different kind of setup than something that they would carry while they were on horseback. So it's almost like two separate schools, large canvases and small canvases on location. My philosophy, though, is that whatever you work on, whatever painting you create at that moment when you go out and paint, that's what it's going to be. You are not going out there with the intention that there's a second painting, kind of like with the philosophy of the Impressionists. You're going out there to create that. And then if you create a little intimate painting, then that's your little treasure. That's your little thing. I find that if you go out and do a painting, and let's just say you're going to do a painting of a location, you're going to go out there and do a color sketch like the pre-impressionism. You go out and do a color sketch. Then I think they're kind of quaint and nice, and you could be really kind of playful with them. But ultimately, I don't feel that they really should be, looked at as a finished work. Predominantly because I find that whenever you repeat a work of art, it's boring to do the larger piece. There's no surprises. And like you said, should I just keep this painting as a simple little painting and not finish it and then go to a larger canvas? I feel that if you stop it now and you feel like this is something I want to do on a larger canvas, then I would recommend stopping it now and getting yourself a larger canvas and proceed on the painting as a larger canvas. I feel if you complete a painting and then choose to do it bigger, for myself, I get bored. I know what it's going to turn out. There's no surprises. I feel like I'm really stuck with copying, like I'm copying a photograph. It's really surprising. You could take really great painters, give them an idea, and if they don't have a photograph to work from, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to recreate lights and shadows. They don't know how to think beyond the box. And that's really where the art is what you can bring to it. If you have a beginning sketch, you want to be able to not have that so complete that when you're working on a larger piece, every possibility is there. There's nothing complete. You can't say, oh, I want to recreate this way. And then all of a sudden, let's just say you do, then there's two copies out there, a smaller copy and a larger copy. And if they're identical, it's I don't know. I just don't find that there's that value of like there's just one out there. A preliminary sketch should be a preliminary sketch. And then I think if you finish a large piece, because that was your intention, you can go back and fiddle with the little sketch and make that good too and sell that. But I think you're right. I think if you want to go to a bigger painting, stop the little piece right now and put all your expectations in your new piece. Because I think even in mentioning this, you go, oh, once I get finished with it, I don't know at that point if I want to do a big one. Right now you think you want to do a bigger one of it. And I think, let's go to a bigger one. Leave this painting as a sketch, not finished. And it has value as it is. It's still a beautiful, beautiful painting. But once you resolve this sketch, then it becomes a little jewel. I mean, remember, the Mona Lisa is just a small little painting. You know, it has a lot of history. Some of the greatest paintings are not huge. My favorite painting of all time is a little Fragonard painting, which is like 9 by 12, maybe not even that big, and it's at the Legion of Honor in San Francisco, and it's, you know, it's a sister doing a pillow fight, which we've talked about before. But that's just a little tiny gem of a painting, and so I think size matters to get noticed. Size matters to have something that you think is really a good idea. I think it's good to do a painting larger like this. I'd love to see this painting larger. I'm thinking, yeah, let's abandon this. Because there were elements of this that I had issues with originally, because you did this sketch midday, you know, and you're still kind of following that midday feeling. So what I would say is, let's abandon this as your sketch, but keep it around as an inspiration source. Start it larger, 24 by 30, 30 by 40. Let's go huge with it. Make this really, because I think it's a great composition, beautiful colors. And let's do it at sunset, where the light's coming from the left and illuminate it and just go all out. And yeah, just something totally different. Because I think if you're going to go larger, go different. You know, go and take it apart. That's the thing that, you know, let's just say if you follow this thing all the way through and it's just absolutely perfect, and then you go larger, then you're going to hold on to what you like about this little painting, and you're not going to go out and really experiment with it. See, you know, originally art was created out of people's heads. You know, you would think, you know, let's just say a Caravaggio painting, and so he might sit and go, I want to do a painting of Jesus coming in and, you know, and pointing at somebody that, you know, I think it was a card game or something, and Jesus steps into the room to get one of his disciples, who's one of the wealthy guys, and gives up all of his money for Christ or whatever. And then, yeah, so you have Jesus coming into the room, and the light's coming in, and the light's hitting his hand, and, you know, all of that storytelling at that early painting thing all had to originate from nothing. And then a lot of times they would hire models, but you really couldn't have the model there full time. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to do a crucifixion of Jesus on the cross, or people taking Jesus down, you really can't make that happen, you know, with models and stuff, and expect them to be on ladders there for 16 hours every day while the artist tries to interpret that. So much of that stuff has to come from what you know. I mean, Michelangelo, while he was carving, would put a man holding up a 5,000-pound sarcophagus. Well, there's no way you can get a model to do that. So you have to master what it is that you are painting. You know, you have to master that. You know, you're mastering with me in my classes. I teach you how to work with lights and shadows so that you can pull away from the subject matter and create something completely yours. And with all of your training, I mean, from the very first coaching class, I have you do an exercise, and our first conversation is really, what is light? And I can't tell you how many people don't know what that is. I can't tell you how many people have guessed or even painted for 30 years, and they don't even really know what light is. They're so trapped at trying to render the photograph. And so my suggestion is take everything that I've taught you and realize that painting from a source, a photograph, is just the beginning. Now I have to set you free and say, I would like you to create a whole new painting in an entirely different time. And you go, oh, well, I don't know how to do that. And I go, yes, you do. You just haven't practiced it because you've been practicing for this moment for a couple of years with me. You're ready to use everything that we've talked about. And the thing is, what's fun is painting the unknown. I mean, that's one reason why you would abandon this picture, because you already kind of know the outcome, because you're just trying to finish this painting off from your photographs. Because you started off on location, and you're using that source. But that's not the best source. I find that a lot of painters, especially plein paintings, are boring because the artist is just stuck with whatever happens with their paintings. They don't know how to do anything else. And when I go out with students and we paint on location, we start off at 7 in the morning and all of a sudden we end up at 10. The lighting has changed. And if you don't know how to work with the lights and shadows, you don't know how to manipulate the time changes, you're going to end up with a painting that has boring light on it because you're painting what's in front of you and the light's gone. It never has the same inspiration of when you first started. So all my training for you has been so that you can create something out of nothing. So that you can take an image and turn the time of day on its side. The challenge would be is to take this painting done during the day with all of this wonderful colors and paint it on a moonlit night with a full moon. Turn it into a nocturne painting, just knowing the skills that you've learned from me. And when you say, well, I'm kind of afraid of painting something I don't know, but really that's where I've been working to try to get to you. You should be able to sit at a painting and create from nothing. I mean, when you look at some of my work and you look at the elk at the edge of a cliff, and there's this vast drop into nowhere, and you wonder, wow, Stefan, you're a plein air painter. How did you take all of your supplies to the edge of a cliff? And then get all of your animals to stand there and pose for you. How do you do that? It's like nothing that I actually paint is actually real. I know how to paint it so that you swear you were right there on the pathway with me. But the reality is that it's all out of my imagination. And I get bored. I get bored painting from photos. I can't. It's for me to sit down and paint this picture using your photograph or your preliminary painting. It's for me. It's so simple. It's ridiculous. It's just boring. For me, I've got to change something. I've got to work out. It's the unknown, and that working out the unknown is where the art is. That's what's great. Sitting down and copying something, sitting down doing a plein air painting where everything's in front of you. Once you master that, that's boring and easy. That's not going to make you any great painter. That's going to make you a good plein air painter, but that's not going to take your art to the next level. When we look at really great art, it almost verges on fantastical. It's almost like everything's heightened to absolutely the very best moment. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of art. Is the human curiosity of, but what if we could change the time of day and the light? That's what makes a great sergeant. Sargent didn't have all of these fancy lights and photography and stuff. He knew how to manipulate. He was well trained, and people are laughable when they think that they can just watch videos and become a good painter. It requires a study. It requires working with somebody. It requires pushing yourself in a space where it's uncomfortable. Because if I don't, as a teacher to you, push you to somewhere that's uncomfortable, then you have just ended, you're at your end. And when a lot of people get burned out with painting or artist block, it's because they're kind of bored with just painting pictures of things or places or people. They're not bringing anything into them. But the problem is they don't know what that is because they never step into that. And so your fear of creating something from this is holding you back. And yet it takes a coach to sit and push you and say, let's do it. Let's do it, because that's what's going to be exciting. All of a sudden, you kind of call up and go, oh, my art, I'm bored with my painting today. And just like, ugh, it's not going anywhere. It's like, because it's too easy for you at this point. Yeah, you've kind of got to a point where I could put anything in front of you and you could paint it. You know? And so it's like, ugh. So now it's, I strive to teach you to paint what you see. Now it's time for you to paint what you see. What you see, not what you see out there, but what is it in your mind that you see? Can you change the time of day so it's at sunset? I mean, let's face it, sunsets are a lot prettier than midday. And if you sit and look at all this color in here and imagine it at a time of day when everything's like doused with orange light. And because we've worked with light so much, you know what that is. You know how to paint that. And then take all this and all the stuff that you've learned through your coaching and pull it together and create something that doesn't even exist. But you get to master and change and alter the world to make a work of art that, is on the edge of a cliff somewhere. That the possibility of taking something you don't know and making it work, that's my daily experience. How do you create this? How do you create that? This reflection, how does that work? How does light work when it's bouncing? When green is illuminated with orange light. Or, what does that look like? What's in shadow? What's in light? How do I take all these colors and put them into shadow? See, if it's not complicated like that, it's not fun. If you just sit there and look at the color, and it's like scratch and sniff. You scratch a color and then you reproduce it on the other side. There's no fun in that. What's fun is to sit there and scratch at it and guess at the smell and then go, oh, I don't like that smell, and then scratch it again and get another smell, It's like that scratch and sniff. This is the same stuff. I don't know if they still make scratch and sniff. But the thing is, you want to... You what? It probably killed all of us, right? It killed our brain cells because it was some odd, some odd chemical. But the thing is, it's the unknown that makes things wonderful. It's like, but what if? But the thing is, you also have to face the challenge of really messing something up. But in that, fixing it is half the fun. It's like, and the thing is, it's the process of painting, not the finished product, that counts. And by altering the time of day, altering the direction and light, altering possibilities, that's what becomes kind of fun as being an artist. Finishing artwork. I mean, these artists that paint the same painting, and have the same outcome. Eventually, there are artists throughout history, and I don't want to name any names, but you could probably think of some that are just even really recent. But if you spent your whole life painting that subject matter, guess what? You're going to drink yourself to death. Because it's boring. Because when you start a painting, it's going to look like that at the end. It's taking something apart and saying, but what if, but what if? But in order to do that, you have to master it. When Michelangelo sculpted a figure holding a sarcophagus that weighed 5,000 pounds, he could do it because he knew how to draw the human body in every position possible. He knew his anatomy. You know the anatomy of lights and shadows. You know the anatomy of perspective because we've worked over it. People who don't study light like we do and don't have an understanding like my students do are completely bound by the photograph. They don't understand how they could change the lighting on something because they don't know how to paint light to begin with. I mean, most of my students, when they go look at other people's work, they go, oh my God, if this artist just had that. You know that when you look at people's work, you go, where's their central focal point? They don't know what they don't know. And I teach a lot of people. I coach a lot of people over years, and I'm amazed in the very first class what people don't know. And they go, well, I watch all these videos. Why don't they talk about it? And I go, well, yeah, because a lot of people are just spouting off things that they've heard from some other videos. So, I would say, let's do it. Let's abandon this painting for right now. We can always come back and finish it. But put together a painting using this as your sketch. This would be your photograph. And what I want you to do is turn it from a good scene to an extraordinary scene. Ordinary to extraordinary. Change the time of day so it is in the evening, so it's later. Change how would things go. And you could go on the internet and look at sunsets of certain, this particular beach. You could look for the information you need for it. You could go down there. Yeah, you can keep on going back to the source. That's a good reason to go on vacation. But the thing is, there's a lot that we don't know. We don't know that we don't know it. So the sergeant painted a couple of kids called the Lamplighters, right? And so in order to recreate that, he was so determined. He got the idea. He saw these kids lighting lanterns. And he says, oh, I want to do that. So the story that I got on that is that he hired a couple of these kids to meet him down at a particular place. And at a particular time, he would have them hold lanterns so that he could get the light. And every particular day, from this story I've heard, is that they would meet and they have all these white lilies around, and this beautiful sunlight that was setting would be on all these lilies. And when the lilies died and they were still working on the painting, he would put paper mache or tissue paper, at the ends where the flowers were, kind of make them fluted so he knew what they looked like, and he would finish the painting. That's the story I got. I personally feel that Sargent knew his lighting inside and out, just like you and I do. And I really feel that might be a romantic story and all that, but I think Sargent knew how to paint white and shadow with any kind of highlight instantly. I don't think he had to go through all of those things, but it's a good story. I don't know if it's true or not, but it just goes to show you have your idea and you do whatever you have to get your painting. Your painting is the end result, but it's the process that we work with. It's a curiosity of taking something apart and reworking it again. You start off a phone call with the beginning of saying, oh, my painting's just, and it's because you've gotten to a point where, almost everything you do is good. Now that can't be the end of it. And for me, that you're just at the beginning. You've learned how to paint. Now create some artwork. And when you're creating artwork, you are creating storytelling. You're creating something that brings a viewer in far beyond the image itself. People have photographs and calendars of everything in the world everywhere. And people can see everything and everywhere, places everywhere, and at every time of day through TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. I mean, they're just fabulous images, and there's millions of people, taking photographs at these places. Yeah, it gets pretty boring when you just have, recreated a painting from a photograph that everybody else has, in their files. Very few people can take that and make art out of it. take it to a time of day. Bring something that it goes beyond just the location itself and make a great work of art. So there you have it. Everything you need to know about creating a small painting on location and considering it for a larger piece, but yet don't put all your eggs in one basket. Create something new that has the element of surprise, because without that, painting something with no surprise is boring. If you'd like to get more information about my podcast or my YouTube videos or my PBS show, you can go to www.stefanbaumann.com. That's my website, www.stefanbaumann.com. And there you can get all the information you need about my background and different things that I do in workshops. But mainly, you can register for a free book, Everything I Know About Oil Painting. It's right there for you. You log on and you see free book, click on that. If you want more information on my coaching classes and take your art to the next level, please don't hesitate to just pick up the phone and call me. There's information there on my website, obviously, but no better than just trying to get it from the horse's mouth. And so I would be that horse. So just go ahead and give me a call at 415-606-9074. That's my personal cell phone number. And yes, I do answer it. If I don't answer it, just leave a message and say you're interested in coaching. You can also text me at that phone number. Again, that's 415-606-9074. So until we meet again, please always remember to paint with passion. I'm Stefan Baumann. You have a grand afternoon.
If you'd like to try coaching for yourself, whether you're a beginner or an advanced painter, please don't hesitate to give me a call at 415-606-9074.
Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting.